Well, it depends on what you're talking about. Since the internet worked, yes.
A little bit warmer than cranberry.
It's hot.
Mike, are we ready? Mike, how do you envision Reilly fitting in to this lineup?
Well, we're really excited to add Reilly to our roster. I think he brings so much with the versatility of his game. One of the strengths of his game is his hockey IQ on both sides of the puck. He's a conscientious player defensively. He has an offensive element to his game. Obviously, he scored 26 goals last year. His body work in the league suggests that he can score goals. And so I think his versatility, he can play either wing, he kills penalties, he's on the power play. I think that the fact that he's been used in all situations, I think is suggestive of his hockey IQ, that he sees it pretty well offensively and plays with some pretty good offensive players, produces as well offensively, consistently, but also brings a defensive two-way game, which I think is important to winning, and especially when the stakes get high. So he's going to bring that to our team as far as where he fits in our lineup. I'm sure we'll probably explore different options, but I think it just gives us that much more versatility.
Like Reilly's been pretty effective off the rush throughout his career as well. Is that something that is appealing and enticing to you guys about bringing him in?
For sure it has. One of the things we talked about is if he potentially played with Gino, for example, his ability to produce off the rush. Gino's a pretty dynamic player off the rush also. They're not the only ones. Sid and Jake are pretty good off the rush also. So, depending on where we utilize him, I think he can add that element to at least be a complementary part of that aspect of our game, regardless of where he ends up in our lineup. But he's a real good player. He's going to make us a better hockey team without a doubt. We're convinced. We're really excited again.
Do you anticipate any of your unrestricted guys returning, or at least returning before the first?
Well, I know Kyle is in discussions with all of them as far as potentially re-signing with our team, and he's in ongoing discussions fairly consistently with all the guys. So, we really like our team. We're hopeful that we can keep some of these guys on our roster, in our locker room. We'll see where that goes. I mean, there's a lot of variables there, but hopefully there's some common ground there that can satisfy both sides.
Acquiring Smith doesn't necessarily preclude Zucker returning then?
I don't think it does. I know Kyle has spoke to Zuck's agent, and Zuck's is a valuable player for our team, and our coaching staff. We're certainly hopeful that we can get something accomplished and keep Zuck in our locker room. He had a real good year for us last year. He's a big part of our team. I know his teammates really value what he brings to the table. He's been such an important part of our team here over the last handful of years. So I don't think just because we made this deal today means anything other than we added a real good player and we're a better team, hopefully more versatile, and we're hopeful here with the ongoing discussions that Kyle has with some of our players like Zuck, that we can keep some of these guys in a Penguins jersey.
Mike, with Reilly's penalty killing prowess, scoring some shorthanded goals too, how important is that for your team? Are you kind of looking for more penalty killing help this offseason?
For sure we are. It's such an important aspect of the game. I thought our penalty kill was somewhat volatile this past year. We have higher expectations there, and I think Reilly's a guy that can help us in that capacity.
When you look at it's said the league is a copycat league. When you look at the teams that advanced deep this year, how do you feel the team you might have going into this season compares and could contrast with sort of the stylistics of those teams?
Yeah, so I know that's a fairly common adage around the league.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is when you look at some of the Stanley Cup winning teams here over the last handful of years, include our team in that, right? There's different types of identities that bring team success. I think the most important thing is that we look at the group of people that we have, and our core group is the most important. because they're our difference makers. They're the engine that that I think our team runs on, and so we've got to build a game plan that sets them up for success. If we were to try to copy the Stanley Cup champion every single year, we would be all over the map with a style of play, a philosophy of play, an identity of what Penguins hockey actually looks like. So I think it's more important that we're true to our group, and our group has certainly shown, and there's plenty of evidence that we can be a competitive team when we surround these guys with the right people and we put a game on the ice that sets us up for success. So I'm not sure I buy into that philosophy or that opinion that goes on. For me, the most important thing is that we look at our core group of players and figure out what their strengths are, and we're going to build an identity around them. And I think that's what the Penguins have done here for a decade plus with Sid and Gino and and Tanger and some of the people the complementary players that have surrounded these guys for the past 15 years. The common denominator are those guys. And so we're trying to create a certain identity and philosophy of play that sets us up for success. We're trying to find players, complementary players, that we think can play that game.
So how much is it, speaking of Sid, how much does it kind of put a smile on your face to see the first 3 picks, I think, will say that Sid was the player they idolized growing up?
It doesn't surprise me. I'm sure I'm sure it means a lot to him. He's an icon, and a lot of the players in the league, they look up to him for how good a player he is, but also how good a person he is. He's just a great role model. He's an ambassador for our game. I've said it on many of occasions, you guys know this, that I think he represents everything that's good about hockey. And I'm sure he's humbled and flattered that these guys look up to him the way they do. But he deserves that. He deserves that because he's earned it.
Mike, Jake's a guy that has taken a lot of physical abuse to be the productive player he's been over the years. Sometimes guys like that, when they start getting into the league, their game changes or needs to change. Where do you think his game goes from here so that he can stay at that level, given sort of what the cumulative effect of the way he has to play?
So it's a great question, Rob. I think Jake understands how to play a certain game that brings him success. I think as Jake has played in the league, he becomes a wiser version of himself. But I also think he can't change what's brought him success. And so one of the things we admire about him is his courage, for example, to go to the hard areas to score goals. He's one of the better players in the league in and around the blue paint, for example. And at his stature, he takes cross checks and he takes some physical abuse in order to score. That's an important element of his game. I don't think that'll ever go away. I think he'll become a wiser version of himself, where he might be more selective on when and how he goes. And so, and I think that's the evolution of a player. And with the hockey sense that he has, I think he will figure that out in time as he goes. But he has so many aspects of his offensive game that make him the player that he is. I don't think that'll ever change in Jake's game.
In your short time working with Kyle, what has stood out most to you about his approach?
I think just his transparency and how collaborative he is in trying to utilizing all the people around him to try to game plan to make the best decisions. He's been very inclusive with our coaching staff, our whole coaching staff, as an example, in just trying to prepare for free agency and who might be available and who might fit within the group that we have. And so he's very collaborative, and I think that's the biggest thing that jumps out to me.